Hi folks, Iceberg here, and welcome back to my channel. It seems that Ziigaat wants to repeat Kivir's success by releasing new IEMs more and more often, but will they be as interesting and diverse? Today I wanna review their new hybrid model, the Ziigaat Crescent. The model is equipped with 2 dynamic drivers and 2 balanced armature drivers from Knowles, priced at $279. Let's take a closer look at the Crescent and find out how this driver configuration works in practice. Let's go! And before moving on to the review, I would like to thank Knowles store for Crescent and their support. Really appreciate that. Purchase link can be found in the description below the video. Okay, the Crescent comes in a box with the familiar Ziigaat design that we know from their previous models. On the side, you can see the model brief specifications, and the other side, the driver configuration, 2DD and 2BA armatures. Inside the box, we see the IEMs themselves, a modular 2-pin cable, 3.5 and 4.4 plugs, 3 sets of ear tips, spacious case, and a small manual. The modular cable included with the Crescent is a real improvement over those that came with other Ziigaat models. As you know, Ziigaat has never been known for its cables, but starting with the Luna model, it feels like they've improved their approach. This cable is pleasant to the touch, thin, flexible and responsive, doesn't get tangled, and has a high quality metal fittings. The ear hooks, splitter and connector are all designed with the user comfort in mind, and it feels really nice and premium, without the slightest hint of discomfort. The modular connection allows you to connect these IEMs to a wide range of sources, and swapping the plug is super easy. All you need to do is make sure the 2 arrows are touching each other and you're good to go. The included ear tips are another nice improvement from Ziigaat. So, the set includes 3 sets or 7 pairs of ear tips. The first set is silicone ear tips with a slightly wider bore, which in shape remind me of FIO tips. They are really quite comfy and do not alter the original sound of the Crescent. The second set and my favorite are transparent ear tips. They are made of soft and slightly sticky silicone, which fits securely and provides a tight fit with excellent isolation. By the way, I will be using them in my review. And the third set is foam ear tips, designed for those who don't like silicone tips or those who wanna get the maximum bass response and the best sound isolation. The faceplate design of the Crescent is simply phenomenal, and as an aesthete, I enjoy looking at the pattern shown here. I see something overworldy here, like the moon's surface and the starry sky with the galaxies. And what do you guys see in this pattern? Share your thoughts in the comments. There is a metal nozzle on the inside. It's quite tall and wide, and inside it has a metal mesh with edges to hold the ear tips. The location of the nozzle has also been carefully thought out to increase comfort and improve isolation. You can also see the model name, serial number and channel indication on the inside of the shell. For those who have used other Ziigaat models, the Crescent shape won't be a surprise because it's the same here. In fact, this shape has been perfect to ideal, so Ziigaat simply doesn't change what works well. So, the shape of the Crescent shells is ergonomic, and the size are medium or slightly above average. There are no sharp corners or ridges on the inside that could affect comfort. So, in my small ears, the Ziigaat Crescent sits comfortably and securely, and the fit is deep and snug, thanks to the correct nozzle, the shape, and of course the ear tips. Sound isolation is also at a high level here. Well folks, let's move on to the most interesting part of this review and check out how the Crescent sounds. But first, let's look at their graph to get the idea of their sound signature. Wow, I really like this graph. The first thing we can see here is a really boosted lower region. As Ziigaat claims, in this model they raised the sub-bass shelf by a full 10 decibels, which is their signature trick. And this is clearly visible, hinting at a powerful response in this region. The mid-bass remains just as massive, but a gradual roll-off starting at 100 Hz may take away some of these excessive aggressions and punch. The transition to the mid-range is quite smooth, and I really like the small hump in the lower mid-range, expecting the Crescent to deliver truly outstanding vocals and instruments in the lower register. The mid-range here looks flat, with a natural rise to upper mid-range, which is typical of the V-shaped sound signature. In the upper mid-range you can see a sharp peak between 2 and 4K Hz, which indicates clarity and detail in vocals and instruments. Further on, in the presence and brilliance range, you can see a wave-like curve, which hints at the bright, sparkling delivery of the treble, where every micro detail is picked up. Eventually, I would like to point off the peak around 15K Hz, which is on the edge of human hearing, giving the sound airiness and light aftertones. Overall, this is pretty cool and unique graph that was tuned by Ziigaat's signature curve. It shows a slight V-shaped tuning with emphasis on the sub-bass, upper mid-range and treble. In reality, these are IEMs which, from the very first second, give you the feelings that you have connected them to the old tube amplifier, but with modern clarity and detail. Their soft U-shaped sound is nostalgically warm, cozy, deep and lively, with a slight retro charm like a vinyl record playing on the turntable. It's a sound that perfectly combines two eras, the vintage and the present. I gotta admit I like this sound signature more than Odyssey and Luna, because the Odyssey is too sharp for me and the Luna has a totally different sound signature. It's a neutral monitor for studio analysis with precise and perfectly balanced sound. A fun fact is that Ziigaat didn't get rid of their driver flags in this model, and it's a bit annoying when you put them on because you hear the cracking sound of the diaphragm. Okay guys, let's take a closer look at the Crescent sounds, starting with the lower region because it's really expressive here. Well, the sub-bass in Crescent, powered by a 10mm dynamic driver with a pad diaphragm, is deep, rumbling and quite tangible. The 10 decibel shelf allows these IEMs to immerse you in the vibrations that you feel not only with your ears, but with your whole body. Let's take Skrillex Bangren for example. The sub-bass drops here sound like an earthquake. They're deep, powerful, with a long decay that creates a vibration effect inside your head. However, I wouldn't say that it's sub-bass that just hits in your eardrum like a basshead's model. It's more immersive and controlled. Even in complex electronic tracks such as TNG Back N, where the sub-bass lines follow each other closely, Crescent doesn't allow for any blurring or humming. Each note is clearly defined with a distinct attack and decay. This is especially noticeable when compared to other IEMs in this price range, many of which either lost control, turning the bass into mush, or cannot deliver such depth. The Ziigaat Crescent on the other hand are perfectly balanced, delivering a powerful sound without sacrificing articulation. The only downside is that the bass may seem a bit slow in ultra-fast genres such as drum and bass or dubstep with the crazy dynamics. However, for me, this is not as much disadvantage, but a feature that makes the sound more cozy. The mid-range is handled by a 10mm dynamic driver with the LCP diaphragm, which is tuned for fast response, texture and control. This driver works in combination with the 10mm DD with the pad diaphragm driver for the bass, and together they create a solid low-frequency foundation. The mid-bass is slightly raised relative to the mid-range, giving it deep, rich delivery without any muddiness or blurring. If I have to describe the mid-bass in one word, it would be a resilient. It doesn't just feel the deep, it hits clearly, with drive, adding that punch to the sound that makes you shake your head. In Kendrick Lamar DNA, the mid-bass sounds juicy, with a resilient boom that perfectly emphasizes the beat. In rock and metal, the mid-bass also does a good job. For example, in System of a Down Chop Suey, the bass line sounds powerful but doesn't overpower the guitar parts or vocals. The drums hits clearly and energetically, as if the drummer were playing right next to you. In my opinion, the mid-bass in Crescents is not just boom boom, but a detailed lovely texture where each beat or note has its own character and weight. The lower mids in Crescent clearly show their vintage nature with a pleasantly full-bodied, rich sound and a slight warmth reminiscent of the vinyl record on a good turntable. In Leonard Cohen Hallelujah, the vocals sound so penetrating and charismatic that give you goosebumps. The lower mid-range add weight and emotional richness to his vocals. Every note, every nuance of his hoarse timbre is conveyed with stunning clarity. The same goes for the instruments. In Nickelback, When We Stand Together, the guitar sounds like the strings are ringing right in your ears, with a slight resonance from the instrument's body. This is a case where a lower mid-range doesn't just sound good, but reveals a lively, breathing nature where each instrument and vocals has its own character. The mid-range in the Ziigaat Crescent is emotional, textured, vintage warm, and incredibly lively. The Knowles armature drivers in this region is tuned to convey maximum detail while maintaining softness and naturalness. However, the mid-range is slightly pushed forward here, creating an intimate feeling of the stage. Like if you're sitting in the front row seat in the concert hall where the vocalist is singing just for you. At the same time, it doesn't overwhelm the lows and trebles, blending harmoniously into the overall sound. The instruments in the mids are a separate treat. The guitars sound clear but soft, with a slight warmth that adds coziness. The electric guitar in the rock has the same drive and richness, but without any harshness. The piano sounds richly dynamic, from soft touches to powerful chords. Wind instruments such as saxophone or trumpet are conveyed with a slight whistle and breathe, which adds realism. The only thing is, in the super dense tracks, the mid-range can seem a little less spacious due to the emphasis on the bass, but this is more a tuning feature that makes Crescent sound musical and cozy. Male vocals, for example in David Kushner, Daylight, sound deep with a hoarse texture that conveys every emotion. You can hear every detail from his breathing to a slight shake in his voice. Female vocals are equally impressive. In Halsey Without Me, the vocals sound powerful with a rich timbre but without the slightest hint of harshness of sibilance. These IEMs bring the vocals slightly closer to the listener, creating an intimate atmosphere. And even in complex tracks, where the vocals could lost in the instruments, Crescent keep it in the foreground, maintaining clarity and emotion. The upper mid-range in Crescent is where vocals and instruments start to shine, but without any fatiguing brightness. As I mentioned earlier, the Knowles drivers are tuned to deliver maximum detail while maintaining softness and naturalness. In Lana Del Rey's Young and Beautiful, Elizabeth's voice sounds crystal clear with a slight vibration in emotional moments, but without the slightest hints of sibilance or harshness, which gave me goosebumps. It's like you're hearing her live, with every intonation piercing your imagination. The instruments in the upper mid-range are also impressive. The guitar sounds energetic with a bright attack, where each note seems to float in the air. The piano is rich in timbre and melodic transition. The upper mid-range in the Crescent is slightly emphasized, which makes it lively and expressive, but it never goes over the edges where your ears start to get tired. The treble in Crescent is handled by a Knowles armature driver tuned to add sparkle, air and detail to the sound, but without the slightest hint of harshness or sibilance. They are not the kind of treble that try to impress you with their analytically or extension. Instead, they are most about musicality and light sparkle that makes the sound lively and cozy. If I have to describe the treble in one word, it would be sparkling. Crescent strikes a balance between detail and comfort, creating trebles that emphasize the texture of instruments and vocals without becoming tiring, even during long listening sessions. Crescent's treble is about delicate detail, adding air and lightness to the music. Cymbals sounds with a clear, ringing strike that conveys their texture. In electronic music, treble add a light sparkle to synth and hi-hats, creating a sense of a beat. The treble doesn't stick out, but blends smoothly into the overall sound, adding airiness to the track. The only thing is, if you are a fan of ultra-airy treble or hyper-detailed sound, the Crescent might seem a bit restrained. The treble isn't as extended, but it's safe for a long listening sessions. It's a treble that doesn't tire you out, but instead gives you comfort and enjoyment. The Ziigaat Crescent Soundstage is like a cozy concert hall where you sit in the front row and the music envelopes you from all sides. These IEMs create a soundstage that doesn't try to impress with the wide or deep, but drives you in with its naturalness and accuracy. It's built with emphasis on comfort and detail. The width of the stage is moderate but well organized, and the deep and height add a sense of three-dimensionality. The instruments and vocals are separated, so you can close your eyes and clearly imagine where each element is located. Separation is one the Crescent strange. Even in complex and dynamic tracks, these IEMs manage to keep every element in its place. This is thanks to the Knowles armature drivers, which provides accuracy in the mid and treble, and the dynamic drivers, which keep the bass under control without allowing it to muddy the soundstage. Imaging in Crescents is also on point. Sounds are positioned on either sides with such precision that you can close your eye and imagine where every detail in the music is located. When comparing Crescent to the Ziigaat Luna, Luna is a full BA IEMs with the 6 BA drivers from Sonion and Knowles, tuned to let you hear the music without the slightest coloration. These are professional IEMs for audio engineers and musicians with the emphasis on neutrality, precision and detail. It's like a studio monitor that reveals every nuance of the track with the superb accuracy just as was intended, while still maintaining musicality. By the way, you can check out the review of them here. Personally, I like the sound of the Crescent more. It's warm, soulful and simply captivating. But if I need absolute precision and neutrality for working with sound, or if I want an analytic presentation with the RD soundstage, then I would choose the Luna. When comparing Crescent to the Ziigaat Odyssey, they have a more balanced versatility and clean sound that can be compared to the properly tuned IEMs, but with slight hint of warmth. Odyssey offers a clean, detailed and neutral sound with emphasis on the sub-bass and the crisp treble. They don't try to surprise you with emotions or retro charm. These IEMs are about universality, clarity and technical precision, suitable for almost any genres and scenarios. Personally, I found the Odyssey sounds too sharp in the upper mid-range and treble, so without a doubt, I would choose the Crescent in this comparison for the cozy, warm, retro-style sound. In conclusion, the Ziigaat Crescent is an IEMs that surprised me with its maturity and thoughtfulness. It takes the best from the analog past and the modern present, creating a sound that is nostalgic and fresh at the same time. Powerful yet controlled bass, velvety mids, sparkling treble and the cozy soundstage create a sound that envelopes you and won't let you go. For me personally, this is one of the most unexpectedly interesting release of 2025. At $279, Crescent offer incredibly value for money, competing with the models priced over $300. Their warm, analog sound, excellent fit, and general versatility make them universal IEMs for audiophiles who value emotion and coziness. However, if you are a sound engineer looking for accurate reproduction or a fan of complex track where absolute precision is needed, you should look at the more neutral models such as Ziigaat Luna. These are IEMs that you want to listen again and again, whether with a glass of wine while listening to a jazz or dancing to a rock and roll, and they definitely have a place in my favorite IEM collection. Well folks, what do you think about the Ziigaat Crescent? Have you tried them yet? Or maybe you have your own favorite in this price range? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this review helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new reviews. Take care, listen to a good music, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!